What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Optimus Fantasy Football Channel. I am Nate Polvogt, your host for the Waiver Wire Show here on Monday night. We have football going on right now. It hasn't necessarily been pretty, so we hope you join us and roll through all of these waiver wire selections for Week 5 of NFL action. Evan, we've got 2 games tonight, but our focus is on Week 5. We've got a lot of weird situations, injuries, and players floating out there on the wire that some of them we really like and some of them we don't like at all. There's a lot going on this week, but first I want to ask you, Evan, how is your Monday going? Are you ready for these games and are you ready for this week?
Thrilled to see what I saw so far in that Dolphins-Jets game. It's like what Lou said to me in reply on Blue Sky, where it's like watching 2 kids who hate each other try to fight each other with cardboard swords. Spoken like a true Bills fan.
Well, I mean, and he's got personal knowledge of both of these teams being in the same division. But yeah, I mean, nobody's confusing these 2 teams for good teams tonight, but it's still football, at least this early slate. Tonight, we've got Broncos-Bengals. That game should also just kind of be a mess. So not super exciting games, but we're not worried about that. We're going to get right into it, Evan. We're going to start with our waiver wire. You remember this one from a couple of weeks ago. We were in a rush getting into the show here, so we've got quarterbacks this week that we like. We've got some that we don't like, and we'll get to that here at the end of the show. But we're going to start with some guys that we talked about prior to the show. First one being Sam Darnold over in Seattle, Evan. Not a guy I necessarily expected to talk about, especially since preseason, there's a lot of discussion about how bad this offensive line was and how bad Darnold was under pressure. However, after a pretty poor week 1 performance, Darnold's been decent. He's got 755 passing yards in the last 3 games. I believe he's somewhere in the neighborhood of like QB7, QB8 in that span. He's playing well. He looks to be protected. He's hyper-targeting Jackson Smith and Jigba. Is he someone that you're interested in going after? I mean, he's not super highly rostered, 9.4% on ESPN, a tad higher on Sleeper at 28%, but still available in at least 2/3 of leagues. Is he someone you're grabbing right now if you're quarterback needy in 2 QB leagues, in 1 QB leagues, in any QB leagues?
Only in 2 QB leagues am I interested in a Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold is a solid QB2. Some people say low-end QB2. I think he's a mid QB2. He's quarterback 18 so far on the season for all leagues, so I'm going to put him in the mid QB2 range. He should already be rostered anyway in 2 QB leagues, but if for some reason he's not, yeah, absolutely pick him up, because he's not going to be losing his job at any time to Jalen Milroe, the rookie they selected this year, the Seahawks. So, no, Sam Darnold is not somebody that I am interested at all. If you're in a 1 quarterback league, you can do better on the waiver wire, especially with some of the guys that we're about to talk about.
Okay, well, let's talk about the next guy. Jaxson Dart makes his debut last weekend, or this past yesterday, I guess this past weekend technically, against a good LA Chargers defense, Evan. He did not look horrible. Only 111 yards passing, but he's 13 for 20. He scores the little flip touchdown to Theo Johnson. But here's where I'm excited about him, and this is why I'm interested in him on the waiver wire. 10 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown. This is an offense that lost Malik Neighbors over the weekend to a torn ACL. He is done for the year. All of a sudden, this offense has now become very condensed without Neighbors. You're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson, who we'll talk about later, Cam Scatabo. You might get some Darius Slayton mixed in there and a little bit of Devin Singletary because he's such a good pass pro. But I think we're going to see a lot of Dart on the ground. I think 10 carries this past week against the Chargers was just the tip of the iceberg with him. It looks like Dabble is okay with leading into that rushing upside with Dart. Is he someone in 2 quarterback leagues you're interested in right now? His price is probably pretty low, and if he continues to play well, it's going to go up. Is he someone you want to get in on early, Evan?
So if you're in a 2 QB league, you have no choice but to go get Jaxson Dart when you have the space to roster him, because Brian Daboll named Jaxson Dart starting quarterback for a very good reason. The Giants started 0-3 on the season. They needed a win very badly. They happened to get one against the LA Chargers, who had a game where they just played down to the competition. The Chargers absolutely should have beaten this Giants team, and they blew it. So, unfortunately, Jim Harbaugh will have to go back to the drawing board and round up the troops again to get ready for their next game. Now, that being said, if you're in a 1 quarterback league, I got bad news for you. This is Daniel Jones all over again, just like in 2019. He's not going to have enough quality targets to throw to with Neighbors gone. We'll talk about Theo Johnson a little later, but Jaxson Dart is looking like a more exciting Daniel Jones. He's going to have to take a lot of carries just like he did against the Chargers. He's going to be taking quite a bit of sacks. He took 5 against the Chargers because that offensive line is atrocious. He may or may not be a liability with fumbles as well. Jaxson Dart is not somebody I am looking to roster after week 6. Now, as far as week 5 goes, if you have Caleb Williams, if you have Jordan Love, you're looking to roster another quarterback because those guys are on bye, absolutely go get Jaxson Dart and then sell him, because I expect the Giants to beat the Saints next week. I expect I don't see anybody on that Saints defense giving Jaxson Dart a problem. Not even Demario Davis at this point, as he's pretty much past his prime as well. So, yeah, go get Jaxson Dart if your quarterback happens to be on bye, but outside of that, I'm out.
What about Spencer Rattler on the other side of this here, talking about the New Orleans Saints? He's played a lot better than expected, Evan, and he's not highly rostered right now. We're looking at 1.9% on ESPN and 8% on Sleeper. He's QB 17 right now. And like I said in the show notes, like, deal with it. This is who he is. He's not a high-end quarterback. He's not going to be a QB1. He might have some QB1 tier games against San Francisco, 26 points. That's not bad. He had the 3 touchdowns. He's got the Giants and then New England and then Chicago, Tampa Bay, the Rams, and Carolina in week 10 before the bye. This is also a pretty soft schedule for Spencer Rattler. Looking at going through bye weeks, maybe you've got some injuries in a 2 QB league. For me, he's a guy that I'm interested in rostering. How about you, Evan?
In 1 QB leagues, no. Spencer Rattler is not a guy I'm interested in rostering. We just mentioned that he's QB 17 right now, which puts him in the low-end QB2 conversation. We just talked about Darnold a little bit earlier, who is QB 18 right now. But Darnold has been showing a little bit of improvement, where Spencer Rattler has yet to throw another multi-game touchdown since week 2, where he threw 3 against the 49ers, much to everybody's surprise. Darnold at least threw 2 touchdown passes against the Steelers and the Saints. So that tells you everything you need to know about the Saints defense and why I'm high on Jaxson Dart this coming week against the Saints, and then recommending to sell him high. But back to Spencer Rattler here. Spencer Rattler has Chris Olave. He's got Juwan Johnson. He's got Alvin Kamara. He's got some solid weapons who, they may not all be in their prime anymore, but they can get the job done. Spencer Rattler is yet another desperation play if you are really hurt at quarterback in 2 quarterback leagues, but in a 1 QB league, you can still do better than Spencer Rattler unless he is the best option under waiver wire. But at least you can expect double-digit points from a Rattler, so that you're not taking anything less than 10 points. So it's going to be rough for a Spencer Rattler with this terrible Saints team, but you can at least count on double-digit points if you have to start him.
Yeah, well, he's definitely, for me, not an option in 1 QB leagues, not even as a flyer on a bye week. There's no way in hell that I would actually roster him. It makes no sense. The ceiling isn't there. The floor isn't even there for him to be playable in 1 QB. But Agreed. I think he's playable in Superflex, especially through some of these bye weeks, though. I will say there are some other players I think you might start over a quarterback in some of those situations, and over Spencer Rattler as well, depending on your depth of your roster. The last one we're going to talk about, we're going back to an old veteran who's playing well, and he should be, given the offensive weapons he has. Matthew Stafford, Los Angeles Rams right now, 40.9% rostered on ESPN, 41% on Sleeper. He is a little bit more rostered than players we would usually talk about on here. But the reason I bring him up is because if you're in one of those leagues, you're one of the 60% of leagues where he is not rostered, I think he's someone you should go out and look at, especially in 2 QB leagues. He's got Puka Nacua, the best wide receiver in the league. He's got Devontae Adams, who is such a fantastic, he might be the best wide receiver too in the league. I don't know how Matthew Stafford can't just continue to rack up fantasy points. Right now, I know he's kind of back. He's with QB 12. But that's QB 12 when he had a bad week 1 against Houston. He only had the 1 touchdown. He was sacked 3 times, -2 rushing yards, just didn't do much, but he's thrown 2, 2, and 3 touchdowns the last 3 games. Feels like he's heating up. Feels like he's getting used to this system. Kyron Williams is starting to heat up a little bit. I think Stafford could be a borderline QB1 the rest of the season. I think he might be, if he's available in your league, the best option on the wire this week.
100%. In one QB leagues, if Matthew Stafford is on the waiver wire and you have to either, upgrade your quarterback, like if you're disappointed with somebody else, like, I don't know, like if you already have Sam Darnold for some reason, Stafford is absolutely the way to go. Stafford should already be rostered in 2 QB leagues, so there's not really much of a point to listen if you're in one of those. But in 1 QB league, Stafford, yeah, like you just said, Nate, if you can believe it, Stafford is QB 12 right now. That's how much better he's been playing over the last 3 weeks. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles also have a tougher defense, too, and throwing for 19 for 33 for 2 touchdowns and only 1 pick against them is no easy task. He only threw for 196 yards, which matters if you're in a league where they count passing yards as points for some reason. But when you have some incredible weapons like Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, I'll even say Tutu Atwell for like one of those special deep throws that he can take to the house. Kyron Williams is also getting better as the season goes along. He dashed up that Philadelphia Eagles defense as well, which is not easy against the run either. Stafford is playing really, really well right now, and he's going to be playing against the 49ers defense that is missing Nick Bosa. They're missing a lot of talent. I mean, is it really a 49ers season if everybody's not injured? I mean, everybody on that team is injured. I don't know how they continue to play at this point, but yeah, they also have a feather-soft Baltimore Ravens defense. They have a disappointing, underwhelming Jacksonville Jaguars defense. And then by the week 8 bye, Matthew Stafford is playing well enough where he's definitely the top quarterback option. If he's not already rostered and you need another quarterback, yeah, go get Stafford.
Yeah, Stafford was a guy, most leagues I'm in, I have him, if someone else doesn't, just because of where I was able to get him. He was going late. We're talking like 12th, 13th round in some of the redraft leagues I'm in. So, but if he is available, guys, you need to go out and get him. Before we get on to the next segment and start talking about running backs, Evan, I do want to get to this question we've got in the chat. We have got Juju Pro 123455 over on Twitch. Wants to know, he just traded Swift and Pickens for Drake London. What are your thoughts on this trade? Evan, go for it.
So when you do a 2-for-1 trade like this, surely you must be desperate at wide receiver. Otherwise, you wouldn't have given up so much to go get him. DeAndre Swift is already just RB2 value on the season. Juju Pro, maybe you can tell me in the comments if you're already rich, I say in air quotes, at running back. And George Pickens, you're selling high just because CeeDee Lamb may have that high ankle sprain, but he'll be back later in the season. And he's just saying in the comments that his wide receiver 1 is A.J. Brown. I get it. We're all worried about A.J. Brown at this point. We can talk about A.J. Brown a little bit later when we get to the wide receivers, but I am expecting him to pick things up as the season goes along because this is classic Philadelphia Eagles under Nick Sirianni and this entire roster and the schemes they have. They love to win ugly. They're defending Super Bowl champions, and they love innovating and trying to find new ways to win that the defenses are not already going to know about. So if they have to win ugly, they do it. So Swift and Pickens for Drake London, I mean, if it's not going to take away depth that you badly need, I'm fine with it. Because Drake London is already a stud wide receiver and should be treated as such. Getting to start him with A.J. Brown is not a bad problem to have at all.
No, not at all. And I think, London, if we've got 10 targets, 8 targets, 15 targets in 3 of his 4 games. This is obviously a guy that Michael Penix is going to target. So I'm completely okay with this. I do believe that the upside is there now. We've got Albert Mariquin in the chat. Evan saying, hello, everyone. Albert, it is good to see you. And we've got Bobber22 also dropping in saying, what up? What is up, man? It is good to see all you guys in here. If you're here for the first time, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out our Discord. If you've got questions, we got answers on Discord 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like to this one, Evan, AXCEIZ, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one, wants to know Chase Brown or T. Higgins tonight. I am going T. Higgins. I do not believe in Chase Brown whatsoever, especially against this Denver run defense tonight. Specifically, it's going to be a long night for everyone behind the line in Cincinnati.
Yeah. On paper, this looks like a nightmare matchup for the Cincinnati Bengals, and Chase Brown has been playing awful all year long. I don't even want to blame the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. It is partially their fault, but Chase Brown has not been efficient against good run defenses last year, too. So the fact that he's not an efficient runner, he's not really that good of a pass catcher unless you force feed him the passes. And at that point, you don't really care if you're in PPR leagues because PPR points are still PPR points. But Chase Brown is not a reliable running back this year. People overvalued him. A lot of people hated me when I said to treat him as an RB2 in your rankings and when you drafted your teams this year because treating him as an RB1 was going to be a disaster waiting to happen. I'm not ready to victory lap about that yet because Chase Brown does have time to turn things around. Nate, for all I know, Chase Brown is going to take 20 carries for 150 yards and 4 touchdowns tonight just because I said so.
That's not going to happen. Look, I was saying all offseason to treat Chase Brown like a back end running back too. I'm talking like 22, 23, 24. I feel like that's his. That's
you were
how
lower than me.
I was way lower. I was lower than everybody, and I don't think I was necessarily wrong. And now that you're sans Joe Burrow, there's nothing to really deter teams from hyper-focusing on the line. They can stack the line. They can load the box against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Watch Denver do it tonight, and they will, because Jake Browning's not going to make accurate throws when he's constantly under pressure, and they can force him to make these bad throws in man coverage and soft zones and beat Cincy just through the roof here.
Nick Bonito is going to make it a living hell for this Bengals team tonight. That guy's a stud at linebacker. So AXCIZ, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your username either, but yeah, go if you have to choose between those two, just go T. Higgins. That's a safer bet.
Yep, T. Higgins is a much safer bet. Bobber 2, we see your question in the chat. We're going then we'll get to your question after running backs. I gotta remember it's going to kick me out of there. All right, guys. Bobber. The obvious one that we have to talk about, Evan, and we'll get through this one very quickly because it's pretty clear. Woody Marks, the Houston Texans. He is the number 1 waiver wire ad this week. It's not even close. If this doesn't become his backfield completely, at the very least, it's going to be a 60-40 split at this point between him and Nick Chubb. 17 for 69 yards and a touchdown. He added another 5 targets for 50 yards and another touchdown. Woody Marks is a guy that if he is available in your league, and he's available in a lot of them right now, 33% rostered on ESPN, 37% rostered on Sleeper, you're going to have to pay up. We're talking like 20 to 30 to 35% of what you have left in your FAAB tank. That's a lot. And what I want to ask you, Evan, very simply, do you believe that this is sustainable from Woody Marks? And when I say sustainable, do you think that he can be a mid to high end RB2 rest of season in this Houston offense?
I think it's possible, but with the schedule they have coming up, especially after their bye week, I don't think it's going to be a consistent RB2 volume and PPR production out of Woody Marks. This Houston team, this offensive line is also freaking terrible, just like the Cincinnati Bengals. And playing against the Tennessee Titans is a cakewalk for a team like the Houston Texans. As much as the Texans have struggled in a division rivalry against the Titans, this Titans team is not a good team. They are a bottom-of-the-barrel team. It would not surprise me if they go close to winless this year. They went 3-14 last year. They're clearly rebuilding. They're clearly struggling to find their new identity with all the new talent they've got, especially rookies like Cam Ward and Elic Ayomanor, who we're going to probably talk about a little later too. Woody Marks, I really love as a dynasty stash. I drafted him in the 4th round of my dynasty league this year. I am really excited because I'm the Nick Chubb shareholder too, so I'm ready to unleash Woody Marks when he's ready. That being said, I think we're going to be seeing, like you said, probably close to a 60-40 split until we can get more out of the run game, because that's the thing. It's like the Texans have to establish a run game in order to get the pass going, and with how bad the offensive line is going against Baltimore, well, I think it's possible because the Ravens are pretty much overrated as a whole defense, but going up against the Seahawks, that's going to be a bit tougher because they got kind of a tougher defense as well, even though the Seahawks are not that good of a team. But anyway, right. Woody Marks, yes, you are going to have to pay a lot to get him, but is it worth it? For the end of your bench, yeah. I think for the end of your bench, go get him.
Yep, I think it's 100% worth it too. I liked Woody Marks. Again, I just like you, I have him stashed a bunch of places. So I'm all about this here. Kendre Miller, it finally happened. He was finally somewhat fantasy relevant. Really quite the blow up fantasy points wise, 28.7 points in PPR, 3 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown, but he had 5 catches for 41 yards and a touchdown as well. I don't think this is sustainable. I think this is one of those flash in the pans, like, hey, it was cool to see it, but we're not going to see it again. I'm sorry, 11 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown for Kendre Miller.
Yeah.
I don't think it's sustainable, Evan. I just don't think it's sustainable. The Saints offense, I don't trust the run game. Alvin Kamara, I don't know what was going on with him, but he's generally going to be the lead guy here. I still don't think this is a Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara situation from back in the Drew Brees days. I don't trust it. I'm leaving him on the waiver wire. How do you feel about Kendre Miller?
I'm leaving Kendre Miller on the waiver wire too. I do not trust him to be productive at any future point in the season. The Saints are not going to be consistent in the run game with how bad this team is. They happen to have a nice running game for themselves against a Buffalo Bills defense that is actually pretty good. But as Lou would be able to elaborate on more, this is pretty typical of the Bills defense. They'll play down to their competition against a team that has no business being anywhere near them on the scoreboard. And that's pretty much what happened here with the Saints trying to show up and make a statement against the Bills. I mean, I knew that they weren't going to be beating the Bills either way. But as far as Kendre Miller's production goes, he maximized what he could possibly do off of 31% of the snaps. Alvin Kamara, if I have that tab open, yes, he had Alvin Kamara still had 73% of the snaps. So that is worth noting that this is Alvin Kamara's backfield. He's not losing this backfield whatsoever. Unless he gets hurt or something, this is his to keep. It is not going to be the Kendre Miller show. Do not waste your FAAB dollars on him, but if you are the Alvin Kamara shareholder in a deeper league and you need maybe a little bit of insurance, it probably wouldn't hurt to put him at the end of your bench and maybe pay like 2 FAAB dollars tops. But I don't want to pay anything for Kendre Miller. If for some reason he's your guy, just try not to pay anything in FAAB. Just get him for the end of your bench.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay anything for him either. He's a good handcuff. Unless Alvin Kamara gets hurt, this won't be a regular thing. Let's move on to Justice Hill, Evan, the one whose stats I quoted instead of Kendre Miller's. With the Baltimore Ravens, Derrick Henry has seemed a little bit off. We see Justice Hill get some love, 3 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown, 5 receptions, 41 yards and a touchdown as well. This is by far his most production this season. With the injury to Lamar Jackson, you lose that portion of the run game. We're going to have Cooper Rush for at least a couple of weeks. He's obviously not a mobile quarterback. Do you think there's something to this Justice Hill emergence this week, and will it continue in the absence of Lamar Jackson at least for the next 2 to 3 weeks?
No, I absolutely do not. I think this is still Derrick Henry's backfield, despite the fact that Henry has been having one heck of a weird year. Here's one good thing I'm going to say about Derrick Henry. At least he didn't fumble the football against the Chiefs, where he had 3 fumbles in a row to start the first 3 games of the season. That being said, I don't entirely know what was going on with Derrick Henry either, where they only give him 39% of the snaps, but what I'm thinking is that this was just a result of game script because they were playing from behind against a Chiefs team that was able to just do whatever they wanted at will against the Ravens. This Ravens defense, like I said, is highly overrated. They lost Roquan Smith. They are not doing well at all defending the pass or the run. Teams can pretty much do whatever they want to their defense, and I don't know what else to say about John Harbaugh's squad that's going to make things better. Now, that being said, Justice Hill getting 59% of the snaps, and the bulk of his fantasy points came from the 171-yard rushing touchdown, in which if you have any bonuses in your league and you, for whatever reason, started Justice Hill, you're thrilled. Justice Thrill, baby. But don't let me saying Justice Thrill confuse you into thinking that you need to go get him. You don't. Justice Hill is a backup running back who is never going to be a lead under any circumstances. So if Derrick Henry were to go down, Hill would just be the lead of a committee. They'd be rolling more Rasheen Ali. They'd be rolling more Patrick Ricard, despite the fact that Ricard plays fullback. Right. This is this is not a must grab even in I mean, if you're in the deepest of leagues, yeah, you're going to grab him either way. But in your typical shallow leagues where you have 5 or 6 bench slots, no, don't bother. He's fool's gold.
I agree. Do you feel the same about Kenneth Gainwell? I mean, he blew up without Jalen Warren in the lineup, but I'm pretty sure Jalen Warren, this isn't a long-term injury. 19 for 99, 6 catches for 35. He's got the 2 touchdowns. Any interest in getting Kenny Gainwell off the waiver wire this week?
Kenny Gainwell was already 43% rostered in sleeper leagues, which means that if you were in a league where either you believe he's your guy because you're a Steelers fan, or if you're in a deeper league where you have to roster a deeper running back, yeah, you're already going to have Gainwell rostered. But if you don't, no, Kenny Gainwell is absolutely not a must-have. So Jaylen Warren happened to miss the Dublin, Ireland game against the Vikings last minute. For whatever reason, his knee was just not ready to go in that Dublin game, and for his sake, it was probably good that he didn't go, because you know how it is with these European games. They play in these grass soccer stadiums that are not designed with NFL football in mind. Yep. Guys slip, guys have non-contact injuries. I always worry about that every year with the international games because they're always playing in soccer stadiums not designed for the NFL. Now, that being said, Kenneth Gainwell took 19 carries, 99 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Kenneth Gainwell, for whatever reason, is Arthur Smith's guy, which brings some nuance onto why I'm saying Gainwell you don't have to avoid entirely in all the shallow leagues, but if you want to pay up for him because you need some running back depth, don't go higher than about $8 FAAB. Let somebody else overpay for him, because when Jaylen Warren comes back, he's going to be back to splitting that backfield, and he's going to be lucky to reach double-digit PPR fantasy points again. So, yeah, tread carefully with Kenneth Gainwell. Don't go spending big FAAB on him.
Yeah, I understand the team likes him, but we also know that the team likes they like Jaylen Warren a lot more. We've heard Aaron Rodgers say it. We've heard Mike Tomlin say it. They've been looking for excuses for a couple seasons to get him more involved. Once he's back, this volume goes away for Kenneth Gainwell. It goes back to kind of what it was before. I mean, we're talking like 5 to 7 carries, maybe 4 to 5 targets. If he does something with them, he's a back-end flex. If he doesn't, should have been on your bench. So I'm 100% on board with that as well, Evan. Before we move on to our next segment and get into the wide receivers, I do want to get to a couple of these questions we've got in here. The first one I want to get to is from Bobber2. Bobber, don't apologize for dropping those in. Just wanted to let you know that we generally get to them in between segments, and we wanted to get to running backs real quick here. But he's got a trade question for us, Evan. 12-man PPR league. He's got Bijan Robinson, Chase Brown, Trey Benson, Woody Marks, and RJ Harvey at running back. His wide receivers are Jackson Smith-Njigba, Ricky Pearsall, Jameson Williams, and Elic Ayomanor. He's got an offer for Puka for Bijan. Do you take that deal to get Puka? Do you give up Bijan Robinson?
I don't think this is a trade you need to do, Bobber22. I don't think you need Puka Nacua on your particular roster in a 12-man league. You've already got Bijan Robinson, the top draft pick in most fantasy football leagues, because running backs are way more scarce than wide receivers. When you have a guy like a Bijan Robinson, you do not give him up. It doesn't matter how scary Tyler Algier looks. Tyler Algier is always going to be sloppy seconds behind Bijan Robinson as far as fantasy football points go. So, no, I don't think this is a trade you need to do. You can absolutely and safely roll with JSN as your top wide receiver. Ricky Pearsall's getting better. Rashee Rice will be coming back soon. Jameson Williams, you could probably make an argument to flex him every now and then. He's not going to be a consistent guy. And then you have Elic Ayomanor, who is building some really nice chemistry with Cam Ward. No, I don't see why this is a trade you would need to do. Wide receivers are usually more plentiful in fantasy football leagues. You're in a 12-man PPR, so you should have no problem finding other wide receivers on the waiver wire if you just need one so badly. So, no, don't do it.
No, and as good as Puka has been, you're loaded at wide receiver, and I would really worry about your depth getting rid of Bijan, leaving yourself with Chase Brown, Trey Benson, and Woody Marks, and RJ Harvey. A lot of guys that have a lot of question marks. When you've got Bijan, I would 1,000% hold on to him. No reason to do that. Then we've got Juju Pro over again on Twitch with another question. He wants to know, Evan, is Darius Slayton a good waiver pickup? I'm considering picking him and starting him over Ridley. So here's what I'm going to say, and it goes back to what I said earlier in the show about Jaxson Dart. This offense is going to become very condensed with a rookie and no Malik Neighbors. I don't see Darius Slayton being a part of that condensed passing offense, unfortunately. He's going to be a high snap share guy. He's been in the 80s or 90s for most of the season. 4 targets last week for 44 yards. Unfortunately, I think that's about his cap. I think we're going to see the majority of this volume go to Wandale and go to Theo Johnson because they're short target guys. Slayton is a guy who likes to get down the field a little bit more. His big week against Dallas, yards per target was 20.33. Then he's had 7.5 and 11 yards per target. That's not within Jaxson Dart's wheelhouse to support that kind of ADOT, basically. So no, I have no interest in Darius Slayton.
Yeah, no, I would much rather still start Calvin Ridley over Darius Slayton at this point, because the New York Giants, now that they're starting Jaxson Dart at quarterback, he'll do fine getting the football out and in the hands of some receivers, but now with no more Malik Neighbors, this is an offense that's going to be feeling it mighty hard without him, being that they're just going to be running the ball a lot with Jaxson Dart and Cam Scattaboo at this point, being that and then Devin Singletary will take some boring change of pace carries that nobody cares about. This is pretty much going to be a run-first offense from here on out that will occasionally have some flex value for guys like a Wan'Dale Robinson or even a Darius Slayton on a weird script week where he just happened to catch like 8 passes on 11 targets for 99 yards and maybe a touchdown. So that will fool people into picking him up later this season, only for him to come back down to earth and produce no fantasy points. Darius Slayton has done this before, and there's no reason to believe that anything's going to change.
Yep, 100% I'm off Darius Slayton. All right. Let's move on to wide receivers.
Before we do that, I have one more piece of running back news. If you were considering picking up Braylon Allen, it is no longer the time to do that. He has been ruled out of this game that he's playing in right now against the Dolphins with a knee injury. So I would hold off on spending any fab on Braylon Allen if he happens to be available. If you have him, I hope you have an IR slot ready to go because he might be missing some time.
Oh, I just dropped him.
Or dropping him, where it works too.
Yep. That's the route I went. All right, Evan, we're going to get into wide receivers. This one's pretty thin this week. Only a few players we really wanted to talk about. The first one being Jalen Tolbert over in Dallas. Had himself a game, no CeeDee Lamb. The last 2 weeks of no CeeDee Lamb, 88 and 81% snap shares. Currently only rostered 2.4% on ESPN and 16% on Sleeper. This isn't a guy I think is a slam dunk at all, but this is still more of a pass-centric offense in Dallas. And with the absence of CeeDee Lamb for who knows how long, I think Jalen Tolbert's an interesting add at cost right now. You're not going to spend more than 2 to 3, maybe 5% of your fab to get him right now. And I'm all for adding him just to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that as well, Nate. I think you don't want to spend more than single-digit fab dollars on a Jalen Tolbert, and the reason for that is because he's going to be the third passing receiver in this offense behind George Pickens and Jake Ferguson. So Tolbert is going to be playing third banana behind all of those guys. Six targets and getting 3 or 4 catches is not too shabby for some low-end flex value, but that's not a reason to be spending double-digit fab dollars on a Jalen Tolbert. So if you have an extra bench spot, if you need another wide receiver, spending anywhere between like maybe 6 and 7 fab dollars tops, in my opinion, is perfectly fine. I wouldn't go above that, though, because Jalen Tolbert is not going to be a lock to continue getting any solid PPR value this season. It was reported today that CeeDee Lamb is also trending in the right direction with his high ankle sprain. I don't think CeeDee Lamb is going to be out for too much longer. Right now, people are predicting that he could be back for week 6 against the Carolina Panthers. So we shall see where things go with his healing. So yeah, Jalen Tolbert is a temporary option just in case something happened to another guy on your fantasy football team. Don't go crazy. Just spend the least amount of fab dollars as you can.
Okay, well, now let's move on to Romeo Doubs. What do we think about Doubs? Had a little bit of I'm not going to say breakout, but he had a boom game, if you will. 6 catches on 8 targets, 58 yards, but 3 receiving touchdowns. Now, obviously, Evan, he's not going to produce like this every week. However, is Doubs someone that you're willing to spend about the same as you will on Tolbert, 5, 6, 7, 8% of your fab, to get him on your roster and see if maybe there's a little bit something to him seeing maybe a few more high value targets moving forward in this offense?
So I think what's helping Romeo Doubs is the fact that Christian Watson is basically dust at this point. I don't even know if he's going to be a Packer for much longer because he's always injured. And then they don't have Jaden Reed to take targets away from Romeo Doubs as well. Now, that being said, I personally do not want to touch any Green Bay Packer wide receiver for fantasy football purposes because things always change depending on game script. They've got Tucker Kraft and then whoever else is wide open. So that changes just depending on what looks they can get with this offense. And Romeo Doubs is a guy that people will absolutely go crazy for because they see 3 touchdowns and think that's the move. They got to chase after that. There's nothing to chase here. He's going to be a high snap percentage guy who will be lucky to see more than 2 targets in any given week just because that's the way the Packers play. They're just like the Buffalo Bills. Whoever is open is going to get the football. Whoever Jordan Love can find, unless he has to throw off of his back foot and try not to throw an interception or throw the ball at the back of his receiver. Didn't Jordan Love throw the ball at the back of Doubs to end the game? I think it was Doubs.
Yeah, was it Doubs or Wicks?
It might have been Wicks, you're right.
I can't remember if it was Doubs or Wicks. I don't know. I was sitting here at my desk watching it, waiting to go live with Kevin. Like, why is this game in overtime? And then you're going to leave us with a damn tie, man. So kind of deflated our energy heading into the show a little bit.
So it's like I said for Jalen Tolbert, don't go crazy with spending any FAAB dollars on Doubs. I would even say don't go higher than like 5 FAAB dollars if you think you're going to keep him long term. Side note for Romeo Doubs. Why can't Romeo Doubs pronounce his last name like Doubs? It would just sound so much cooler if he did that.
I don't disagree. I am still upset about it. I called him Doubs for a while, and then I was corrected, and I kept doing it anyway because I felt like it. All right, this last receiver on the list, Elic Ayomanor, the man, the myth, the legend over in Tennessee. He has become rookie Cam Ward's favorite target. Right now, he has 25 targets through 4 games. He is seeing an 80% plus snap share in 2 of 4 games, and it just feels to me like he is overtaking Calvin Ridley as a wide receiver 1 in Tennessee, which isn't saying a ton because it's Cam Ward, right? But he is the guy, and I think he's going to get the high-value targets in this offense. Are you, in any fashion, looking to get him as like a flex option rest of season? I am. I've already got him rostered in a handful of leagues. He was kind of my late flyer pick in a lot of leagues. So I've got a lot of him, but is he someone you're interested in acquiring right now?
So if Elic Ayomanor happens to be available in your league, yes, this is definitely a top get for your teams. He's the top wide receiver that I want to get from the waiver wire this week if he's still available, because so he's 58% rostered in sleeper redraft leagues right now. He's probably already rostered in yours just because he got some red zone touchdown looks against the Rams and the Colts. Now, that being said, Calvin Ridley is dealing with that undisclosed injury that they haven't talked much about. He tried to play through it against the Houston Texans this past Sunday, and then it remains unknown right now if they can determine that Calvin Ridley is healthy enough to continue playing this season. But that being said, if he has to miss time against the Cardinals, Ayomanor is going to get a lot of looks still from Cam Ward. Like we were saying earlier, though, this Tennessee Titans team is not a good team. They are clearly in rebuilding mode. They're clearly trying to find a new identity with a bunch of young talent. These rookies, Cam Ward and Elic Ayomanor, are exciting because they're brand new to the league and they're rookies, but that doesn't mean that they're amazing value for redraft leagues. So Ayomanor, if he's available, yeah, you're probably going to have to pay up to get him on your team. I would say don't go above 20 FAAB dollars if you have that much remaining. He's definitely a guy that I think you will be on your bench for the rest of the season. He's not going to be like a flavor of the week guy like Tolbert or Doubs. So I think Ayomanor is probably the most worthwhile option to go get this week.
Yep, I agree. He's my favorite receiver on the wire. I do like Tolbert too, but Ayomanor is a guy that I think I can actually start. Speaking of players that we told everyone not to start all weekend, watching Chase Brown here in this Denver game, of course, I've got it here. I've got to. These are my boys. Lovely Chase Brown, like 1.5 yards per carry so far. So you got to love it, the efficiency. Look at us go here. We are going. Here we are, tight ends, moving on to those guys. This is a really, really thin wire this week. We're starting to see some separation. I'm going to stop talking about guys like Cade Otton. They're simply not seeing the volume. Will Dissly is injured. He's another one of my waiver wire favorites who tends to snipe some volume here and there. Those guys are out, and we're down to basically 2 that we like this week. The first one is Brenton Strange over in Jacksonville. He's not highly rostered, 22.6% on ESPN. 33% on Sleeper, which I'll be honest does surprise me with all of the hype from some of the tight end gurus this past offseason for Strange. However, here's the thing, Evan. He's got 14 targets the last 2 games, 12 catches over 100 yards. Right now, he's tight end 14. He's seeing 80+% snap shares. He's fitting into this offense, and like it or not, like Trevor Lawrence or not, I think this is someone that needs to be rostered in most leagues moving forward at tight end.
So that's giving a sneak preview of what I wrote today about Brenton Strange in the OptimusFantasy.com waiver wire article. Be sure to go to OptimusFantasy.com after the show. Check that out. So I wrote the tight ends part with starting with Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange is definitely in the low-end tight end 1 conversation now that he's established getting 6 catches on 7 targets over the last 2 games. Both of them, they may not have gone over 100 total receiving yards. He hasn't found the end zone yet, but he's got worthwhile PPR volume to make that worthwhile. Worthwhile PPR volume does not come easy from the tight end position in fantasy football. If you've been playing long enough, you already know this. So Brenton Strange is a real deal. Trevor Lawrence is struggling this year trying to get used to this Liam Cohen offense. I mean, that's the way it's going to be when you try to buy into a new system. The talent needs time to get used to it. I think Trevor Lawrence is being too heavily criticized. I don't think he's necessarily a stud quarterback, but I think he's a good quarterback at best. That being said, Lawrence definitely likes Brenton Strange. He has replaced Evan Ingram completely in this Jacksonville offense. And if you already have a stud tight end like a Brock Bowers or a Trey McBride, just go get Brenton Strange anyway, because at least he's got some flex value that you can have on your bench. Or if something happens to somebody like a Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, your stud tight end, you've got Brenton Strange ready to go, because chances are you've got flex spots, which makes rostering multiple tight ends worthwhile. And Brenton Strange is definitely worth that if your waiver wire is depleted of better options. So, yes, Brenton Strange, it is not strange to roster a second tight end. See what I did there?
I love it, man. Well, and I think, too, like, he really is the best tight end on the wire this week. You've got guys like Isaiah Likely, Cade Otton, Darren Waller, Pat Freiermuth, Jake Tongas, Rondo Gadsden over with the Chargers, who is not someone I'm super excited about in that offense either, because you've got so many other options. Brenton Strange, though, is a guy who I think is going to continue to see that PPR volume, so I am excited about him. Our other tight end, Theo Johnson, I'm not as excited. This is more of he's probably going to be cheap on the waiver wire, free to maybe like $1, $2, $3, and you can stash him and see what happens, because I do feel like he's going to be a part of this condensed offense because of the kind of targets he sees. He's more of that short to medium range, and he does a lot of underneath drag, curl. They do trickery stuff with him. We saw the shovel pass for a touchdown. Those are the kinds of things you see with a rookie quarterback like Dart. So Johnson's a flyer for me, but I think he's worth it in deeper leagues, or if you've got a bench spot to burn, he's a guy worth rostering to see what happens, especially at a position that is really hard to find value at outside of the top 8 to 10 guys on a regular basis.
Theo Johnson is the least exciting starting tight end in the league. And now that I'm saying that out loud, I take that back. I think a less exciting tight end in the league is Jatavian Sanders. Theo Johnson is like one step above him as far as least exciting starting tight ends in the league. I'd rather go get Chigo Okonkwo over a Theo Johnson. That's how unexciting Theo Johnson is. No disrespect to the young man. He happens to be a New York Giant. They suck at moving the football. They suck at throwing the football. Jaxson Dart is going to struggle against tougher opponents. That being said, this was against a Charger defense that just happened to play down to the Giants' competition, and the Chargers ended up losing to the Giants, which is embarrassing for them. Now, that being said, Theo Johnson is also playing against the Saints next week, who are not that good at stopping anybody on defense. So if you need a streamer for whatever reason, I still think you could do better than Theo Johnson. I'm not willing to pay more than about $2 FAAB. I really don't have much respect for Theo Johnson's game. He's a guy that you stick in your lineup if you just really, really, really don't want to take a zero. Now, that being said, we don't have one guy on here that I put in the waiver wire article today on OptimusFantasy.com. If Hunter Henry is still on the waiver wire, you better prioritize him over Brenton Strange, because he is Drake May's favorite guy. Even if it doesn't appear that way sometimes, because Stephon Diggs can have some big games. But none of the wide receivers in New England are exciting. Go get Hunter Henry over both Theo Johnson and Brenton Strange. You are muted, my man.
If he's available, he's rostered right now in 70% of ESPN leagues, right around 70% of sleeper leagues. But if he is available in your league, that's ridiculous, and he absolutely has to be rostered. All right, Evan, before we move on to our nope players for the week, players that you should definitely be avoiding, got a couple comments in the chat I want to get to here. We've got Joe Daniels over on YouTube. Do we think that he should bench Ladd McConkey for Romeo Doubs? Absolutely not.
No. The Ladd McConkey is much. Yeah, he has to compete more for targets now in this much better Chargers offense, but I will happily take Ladd McConkey over Romeo Doubs. He's better than Romeo Doubs overall as a player. Romeo Doubs will be lucky to get what he got against the Dallas Cowboys this past Sunday night. I don't want to trust Romeo Doubs against better teams. I mean, yeah, maybe he'll do better against the Bengals and Cardinals, maybe. But even against weaker passing secondaries, he's lucky to even fall in the end zone. He couldn't even do well against the terrible Cleveland Browns secondary. He only got 2 targets and caught 2 passes for 25 yards. So no, I would much rather have Ladd McConkey. I'd rather take my chances on him if those are indeed your only 2 options. Because at least McConkey, his floor is 5 targets. End of story.
Yep. Well, and he was the guy that a lot of us were projecting to be a wide receiver 1-tier player. The only reason he's not is because Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson have emerged, which is a good problem to have for the Chargers offense. It sucks for us, but he's still a quality receiver. He's much more talented than Dobbs. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm just going to throw this comment out here. Joe Hammy mistakenly over on Twitch loves my hat. Broncos for life indeed. When you grow up here, it's in your blood. There's no way around it. We've got Mike Collins on YouTube as well. He wants to know if we would trade away Javonte Williams for Kyren Williams. If you'd asked me this 3 months ago, 2 months ago, I would have said yes. If you'd asked me this 3 weeks ago, I would have said yes. Now I would say no. I wouldn't make that deal.
That's a really, really good question, Mike. And I'm really glad you put that out there because it's even forcing me to think about this one because both of them are considered RB1s. It's taking Kyren a little bit of time to pick things up because he is getting the volume, but the Rams running game is not as good as it used to be. The offensive line doesn't really impress me anymore. It's an older Rams team that's still trying to show that they've got what it takes to compete in the NFL, but I don't think it's going to be good for them in the long run. That being said, Javonte Williams has proven to be the bell cow in this offense. It is not the Miles Sanders show, who I'm going to get to in a little bit here. They love running with Javonte in the red zone as well. They don't use him much in the passing game. They don't need to. They can... And I gotta be honest, Nate, Javonte proved me wrong. I thought he was going to struggle again in like a committee approach, just like what happened on your Denver Broncos. I mean, I know that you know more than I do about how much he struggled with the difficulty of injuries and whatnot. But yeah, I will admit on this show that I was wrong about Javonte. At this point, I don't think it's a trade you need to make, Mike. I think you can safely hold Javonte Williams and be fine with that.
Yeah, I would hold him. And the injuries were a thing here. And when he wasn't hurt, he was really explosive, really talented back. But I was wrong too, because I assumed that the amount of injuries and the wear on his body was going to keep him from being able to be this explosive in Dallas. Plus, it just didn't feel like an offense that could support that, because we haven't seen that since Zeke and some freak Tony Pollard blow-ups that way overinflated his value for the last, 2 to 3 years. But that's neither here nor there. We've got here Joe Hammy mistakenly. Kyren is good to just fall into the end zone 12 times a season. He really is.
Yeah.
I'm with you, dude. Javonte Williams is playing really, really well. I would not move him. For Kyren. I like Kyren Williams, but again, this is a different offense. They're not running the ball as well in Los Angeles with the Rams. Let's get on to our nope players, Evan. We're going to start, and we'll roll through these pretty quickly and get everyone back to the games here. Carson Wentz over in Minnesota. He's had 2 weeks. He's put up some numbers, but he also makes a lot of mistakes. There's no reason to believe that he's going to be fantasy relevant or he's going to be starting for long enough to roster him. Are we correct?
No, yeah, because there's already talk from the Minnesota Vikings camp that JJ McCarthy is rumored to start practicing this coming week for week 5. So if he does start to practice, there is a chance that he will play, because you wouldn't start practicing if you're not ready to play unless you're suspended or whatever. But anyway, JJ McCarthy had the high ankle sprain that kept him out over the last 2 games. He is still the starter until the Vikings say otherwise. Kevin O'Connell told the Minnesota Star Tribune that he wants JJ McCarthy to be fully healthy and go through a full week of practice before he returns. So this is a situation that you need to monitor if you already have Wentz on your team, or you are considering adding him through FAAB dollars. Now, that being said, don't spend a lot of fab dollars on a Carson Wentz. And as a matter of fact, look for other quarterbacks on the waiver wire because, I mean, no disrespect to Carson Wentz, but this ain't it, Chief. He threw 2 interceptions against a Steelers defense that is really not that good. He didn't get those 2 touchdown passes until the fourth quarter, just out of desperation in Dublin. He was playing terrible for the first 3 quarters. So no thank you. He also took 6 sacks. This offensive line is also beat up. Wentz ain't it, Chief. Look to another quarterback elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm forever and always off of Wentz. Miles Sanders, I'm going to say the same thing I've said about a lot of other players. He's a great change of pace back, but Javonte Williams is that dude right now. Unless you're handcuffing Javonte Williams for some reason, which I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't. There's no reason to roster Miles Sanders, period.
No, 100%. Yeah. Miles Sanders, I mean, I don't want to say he sucks because Miles Sanders is on an NFL roster for a very good reason. He can still take some situational carries and take some check down passes when needed, but he only got 10% of the snaps against the Packers, and this was a game that was all offense and no defense. Sanders still didn't get that much playing time. This is the least amount of playing time he got this season. So, no, I am 100% out on Miles Sanders. There is a reason I laughed at you, Nate, kind of you. I mean, I wasn't really laughing at you about Miles Sanders. I was just laughing about the notion of picking up Miles Sanders because that would be a really horrible move, even if he gets 36% of the snaps like he did against my Bears. No, Miles Sanders is a hard pass from me. Do not spend any fab on Miles Sanders. Do not even consider picking him up. You can do better.
Yep, I just want to throw this out here. We got a rushing touchdown from Bo Nix. I just watched it happen. I am pleased. The score is 6-3. Pending extra point. Luke McCaffrey, he's had a couple of decent weeks. If you're in a league that has kick return points, I would go get Luke McCaffrey. That's an added little bonus. But outside of that, there's nothing about this Washington offense that makes me believe this is sustainable. Leave Christian McCaffrey on your waiver wire this week.
Why couldn't Luke McCaffrey do this his rookie year for Scott Fishbowl last year? He would have been perfect.
I know. There were people who were drafting him late for that very reason, but
man.
Yeah, and once Terry McLaurin's back, forget about Luke McCaffrey. There's absolutely no value to him.
Yeah, and the thing is that the Commanders were struggling to keep up with the Falcons in their game. I don't believe that Luke McCaffrey is anything sustainable. They were trying to get him going early last year in like the first 6 weeks of his rookie season, and that was until they learned that he sucks, and that's when they had to roll out with De'Ami Brown while he was still on the Commanders because he was a better route runner, a better blocker, and just an overall better wide receiver than Luke McCaffrey. Do I think Luke McCaffrey will suck forever? No. I mean, there's a reason that he's returning kicks and punts. Well, not so much punts, but just kicks right now. Because he's good enough to at least do that. So surely he is capable of playing wide receiver in the NFL. It's just that he still needs to develop in the Cliff Kingsbury offense, which I don't know if the Cliff Kingsbury offense is going to be good long-term for the Commanders. I mean, this is probably another topic for another time, but it kind of seems like the novelty wore off once again, where it was exciting in the first year, just like Kyler Murray and the Cardinals in the first year, and then the wheels fell off, and now everybody's stopping this offense. So, no, if you're desperate at wide receiver, don't chase touchdowns. Just look for better options on the wire. You have to understand where the touchdowns come from and just the situations that apply to the teams. Luke McCaffrey ain't it. Don't spend anything on him. Yeah. Don't even look to pick him up. Just you could do better elsewhere.
Welcome to the Cliff Kingsbury experience, folks. Now, the last one here on this list is Kevontae Turpin over in Dallas. I think this goes back to our conversation that we were just had here. Jalen Tolbert's fine. He's a guy who might see some volume. He's more of a back-end stash edge. You're not expecting him to do much more than be a flex, especially once CeeDee Lamb comes back. His value kind of dies off. Kevontae Turpin still has no value unless you're in, again, a league that has kick return and punt return points, because he's doing a lot of that and he's doing it well. He's chunking out yards on kick returns. But aside from that, there's no way you're rostering Kevontae Turpin right now.
No, 100% no. And this is just like what I said earlier. Like, Kevontae Turpin was a great addition if you played in Scott Fishbowl last year because of the big return value points. But if you're in a league that doesn't do any bonuses for returns, no, you don't need to care about Kevontae Turpin. Unlike what we were just talking about earlier with Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert is the third receiving option in this offense. Turpin is fourth. So you really don't need to be rostering the fourth option in any offense, especially the Cowboys. So no, Kevontae Turpin is a guy that you can safely leave on waivers. You don't need to pick him up unless you're in some insanely deep league with like 15 bench slots. No, you don't need to go get Kevontae Turpin. Just leave him for somebody else to spend FAAB dollars on. I've been waiting for Kevontae Turpin to fumble the football because I've been wanting to say Turpin is burping up the football. That's my stupid joke that I've been wanting to make for a long time. I mean, maybe he has to touch more of the football first. He's been getting 60-some% of the snaps, but he just doesn't get enough targets to make it worth picking up. So yeah, don't do it. Don't pick up Turpin. Leave him alone.
Nope. Leave Turpin. But don't leave us alone, folks. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the Optimus Fantasy channel. We will be back on Wednesday with the Nate and Casey show, the Optimus flagship show. And then we'll be around Thursday for our first Dynasty show of October with Lou and Evan and myself. And Friday for the Friday Vibes and Sunday for Start Sit. We've got a ton coming. Make sure you subscribe. If you're watching us on Twitch, make sure you're following us and subscribe. We would love to have you follow along. All of our shows that are live on YouTube also go to Twitch so you can find us there. We can see your questions and we will answer them as much as we can, guys. If we do miss any of your questions on any show, you're listening to the audio version or you're watching the replay, head over to our Discord channel. The link is in the show description. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we are there to answer your questions. If we don't get at them right away, we'll get to them as soon as we can. A great community over there on our Discord channel. You'll love to see it. Evan, we're going to get everybody back to the games. I want to thank you for coming out tonight and thank everyone who has watched, will watch, or listens. Again, like, subscribe, follow on your favorite podcast platform. For Evan Sather, I am Nate Polvogt. Folks, have a great Monday night, and we will see you next week.